This is Healing Forward. I'm Barbara La Pointe. Welcome to conversations that challenge, inspire, and transform you. From best-selling authors to real-life warriors, these are the voices that remind us our story isn't over. We are evolving. Healing is not a destination. It's a decision that we make every single day. So let's move forward together. 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Successful women are thriving in life, but quietly struggling in love. Why is that? They've built careers, created independence, and we've done our inner work. Yet behind closed doors, many, like so many, are still navigating unfulfilling or complicated relationships. Like, why is love so complicated? Welcome back to Healing Forward with Barbara La Pointe. I'm your host, and today I'm joined by Gwenm Carsley, a body, sex, and soul coach and host of the Skin and Soul podcast. I love her podcast. Her work explores intimacy, desire, and what it means to really have a connection in this complicated and modern world. But we're going to dive deep into relationships. Welcome, Gwen.
It's Gwenm. Hello. Gwenm. Yeah, I know it's a complicated one. Anyway.
Thank you for the grace.
Yeah.
And nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Yes. Well, what trends are you seeing in your busy coaching practice with respect to high achieving women in relationships today?
Well, women more than ever are, really focusing on their careers and are competitive in the workplace, but it definitely has its toll in the love and intimacy and work sector, because let's face it, we're living still under a very patriarchal system that demands a lot of women, demanding their performance. And so when women get home, right, we're still on that overdrive, and we're still living in that kind of that structure that says we need to perform or we need to be on. And so we get to relationships, and it's really hard to relax into, to be into receiving mode.
Yes, because when we're trying to hustle or, make a buck, or just, working in a very professional field, we're working to be successful women. Don't we have to really call forth a lot of masculine energy? Mm-hmm. And isn't that like we're in our masculine, and then how do we, how does that affect the conversation?
Okay, so I love that you brought that up. So this whole masculine and feminine energy, right? So we all carry it, and we need it. And it's great that women are more present in the workforce, that there's this demand for, I'm going to call it equality. And but what's happened in the force of is that we're losing touch of the softer parts of ourselves. The natural part that really wants to receive and to relax. So if you're on all the time and you're driving towards the outcome, to do better, to build that career, then when you get home, building that intimacy, that armor is still up. And what needs to happen into relationship is the relaxing back into the giving and the receiving. However, that dynamic plays out. So as female identifying women will naturally want to receive that love, but it's that switch doesn't get turned off that easily.
That's what I was hearing, Gwenm, like a switch. Like, how do we just switch it off? We're like, I'm ready to receive, as we've been going hard all day. Mm-hmm. Is this something that women struggle with in your coaching practice?
Absolutely. And I think it's gotten really confusing because there's so much demanded. And let's face it, most women are exhausted. If you have kids, if you are working, to just come home and switch it off is a struggle. So, if you're alone, then creating a conscious space for you to relax into, whether that's coming home and saying, I'm just going to, turn on the bath, light the candle, or slip into something that feels more comfortable, just to be able to come into downtime instead of, still being in that competitive, challenging mindset. And we're not really given that permission these days, because we're still in this patriarchal format. I always say, even for me, I look at my life and I consciously move in flow. I always have, more so because as an artist, structure was my edge of leaning into, the part that I really needed to cultivate. But I think for most women, particularly that are very successful in corporate life, backing off and being able to trusting yourself, first trusting and listening to your body, really coming into tune with where your body is in a moment, listening. It's coming back into that intuition space.
Intuition space. Like that's really being present, mindful, showing up in the moment.
Showing up in the moment, coming into feeling instead of thinking. Because again, when you're in the corporate world, you're in, this drive much more than you are in your center. So it's connecting back. It's the mindfulness. It's coming back into sensation. It's allowing for first trust, creating boundaries. If you're in a relationship, creating boundaries, feeling also into the safety of your relationship. So, being able to lean back into your masculine. If you have somebody at home, that partnership, being able to let go of the reins and handing that over so that you get to be more in your feminine essence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I'm also an artist. I think that's what attracted me to you, because we are naturally inclined to be in the flow of life and to trust our intuition, and but in regular culture that can be a very counterintuitive experience.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're building the foundation for our conversation today, Gwenm, are we having a counterculture conversation? Like, do you think culture?
I think so. Yes, I do. I think we're the lucky ones. I do. It comes with its own challenges to be an artist and to move in that flow, and to be so I want to say be so in the body. It comes with its own, being able and having to create more architecture and leaning more into creating more of that masculine architecture. Like from within myself, I've really had to create that discipline. For women that are very successful in a more corporate kind of setting, or that 9 to 5 that demands so much, which is part of the unfortunate piece, is that we don't create space for women to play out more in their feminine and still support being successful, and to create a different paradigm for it. And the cost, I think, is really pretty high, because, women go to work and then they're still expected to care for their kids when they get home. And then they have, if they have a partner or a husband, then there's still that caretaking there. And it's exhausting, and you cannot show up in your relationship, in love, in intimacy, if you are depleted. And so the question becomes is, how do you nourish yourself? How do you come back to yourself without coming into competition constantly, in combat even, or in disassociation with your partner?
There's so many directions we could go right now. There's like a million things I want to ask you, like that self-nourishment and self-love. I find women have a lot of struggles creating a self-love practice, or even just creating a boundary where they can allow themselves to fill the well.
Yeah, and just listening into the body, when we talk about self-worth and self-love, and I find that self-love these days has become such a buzzword, right? And it's not about standing in front of a mirror and being like, I love you, I love you, that's lovely. It is, but to honestly stand in front of a mirror and look into your eyes and say, I love you no matter what, to be able to stay with yourself and give yourself the pieces that are not comfortable. So when you are feeling lonely, instead of trying to abandon those parts of yourself, when you're feeling like you're depleted, to be able to, whether it's reach out to your partner or find community. Sometimes if you can't go to your partner, there's also having something around community, having girlfriends, having a space or a hobby, some place that you can go to where you feel that you've got some kind of support.
Mhm. Yeah, that's, I mean, I think that's a journey in itself, and we can just evolve and getting stronger and allowing ourselves to do that. But we have to also be aware when we need to do that. So what I hear you saying is that feeling into the body can start giving us the clues to move forward.
Yeah, listening to that voice, and the body shows up in so many different ways. It can be in numbness. It can be in that low grade feeling of like just the gray zone where you're not feeling the aliveness. You're just in doing mode. So if someone is just going from one project to another and not really feeling into their life, noticing, if you're not feeling intimate, where you're disconnecting, where you're not coming back home first to your body. And then, of course, if you have a partner, coming back to your partner and connecting. It's really important, to come back every day, and however you start your day, to kiss, to take that moment. And it doesn't have to be long, but it's really, it's precious time rather than an abundance of time and just doing tasks.
Okay. What's important about having that? Like, what's important about having an intimate space with your partner? And what,
Well,
like,
this is a part of the work. We talk about relationships being complicated or hard work. And I like to think of relationships as, there's, rather than being work or hard work or complicated work, it's really the kind of tilling of the garden. If you are constant, more mindful of it and showing up regularly to it, or even setting aside time for it, then it's less work. Right? It's like when you go to play golf. I think of men who go to play golf and they're like, "Oh God, I don't understand my relationship." But when you show up to, whether it's an activity, anything that we need to practice becomes a labor of love. And I think when most people get together with their partner, there's love there. There's a desire, there's an appreciation, and we get lost in our own everyday, and we forget that a lot of the stuff that we're just throwing on to our other is really the stuff that's going on inside of us. So if we're like, we're not, that person's not paying attention, or I want more intimacy. It's also, how are you bringing intimacy back into yourself first? So, could be a pleasure practice. Are you listening to how your body wants to respond, what your body needs, what your emotional needs are? And then also bringing that to the relationship, and not just expecting it from the other side and then throwing the blame, right? We've got a lot of blame game of like, that one didn't show up there and I do 1,000 things, but we all have different love languages. And so to come back and hear back into your love language and your other's love language is also really important.
yeah, do you feel that whoever we're attracting or that we're in relationship with is just a mirror to ourselves?
Hmm. Yes.
We hear that often, and sometimes it's like a maddening thing to hear. Obviously, there's some truth in it. It's easier to hear when you're in a positive, sustaining, and nourishing relationship. But what about do you ever speak on topics related to when women aren't in healthy relationships, or they're seeking to be in one, but it's not working out, and it feels complicated, or they're not nourishing back into their own body, and they ignore red flags? Because a lot of successful, intelligent women in today's culture end up in high conflict relationships or toxic relationships, and that's a big theme too. So should we dive into that a bit?
Sure, absolutely. So, being successful out in the workplace does not reward you in love necessarily. Like, one mindset does not bring it in to the other. In fact, if women are really, if a woman is really driven in her masculine and she's attracted a masculine man, it's going to cause a lot of conflict if she cannot go back into her feminine, which is a lot to ask for. But in terms of like when you're talking about women who are looking at toxic relationships, there's a lot to look at there. It's looking at the patterns where she overrides herself. And that again comes back to listening. What are the boundaries that are being overridden? The patterns of people pleasing. And even today, in corporate world, that's what women are. To me, women are just masterful people pleasing, because if we've got to do it right this way, act this way in society, and this is how we are on the job, and then we're supposed to come home and act this way, as opposed to tuning in to what's right for her, for each individual goddess, right? So so there's a lot to play with, but it does come back with self-worth. And you can't fake self-worth. Again, it's not standing in front of a mirror just saying like, I love you, you're worth it, you're worth it. It's coming back home into the places and feeling into deep self-worth and cultivating that. And that does come with being able to advocate for herself, to be able to create those boundaries, to be able to discover what it is that she does want, and then to create the safety. So safety is generally very huge for women. It's like one of the number one ingredients to opening into intimacy.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's probably that's very, very true. Often we might not feel safe in our relationships.
We don't. And I think that goes on both sides. As communication often breaks down, we all carry some forms of shame, or are not heard the way we think we need to be heard or want to be heard. And you were talking about the frustration of mirroring. And so I think part of the frustration that people feel is like, I don't know what that means, right? That whatever is here is whatever's out there is really in here. And what it means is that you wouldn't be able to recognize it if it wasn't already in you. That makes sense. So, we let things go, right? We let things go all the time. Somebody, I don't know, doesn't take out the garbage and it rolls off of one person's shoulder, and another person is like, oh, that's so inconsiderate. That's so, right? It's all in how we filter our own perspective.
But some of these patterns that you've been referencing about overriding yourself, boundaries, where do those patterns begin? Like the
patterns begin. I mean, they can begin in childhood. We're essentially wired very, very young in relationships. Whether it's around our parents or our friends or social groups, school, and also it could just start to evolve in relationships and the dynamic. And usually, we set a precedent at the beginning of a relationship of how we're going to evolve into it. And so to me, the beauty of a relationship is how we grow in it. And usually when there's conflict, there's so much opportunity for growth, and to start to listen and do some healing. And I think that most people find that when they start to really heal themselves, that the relationship tends to evolve, because it has to, right? Whether that opens up space for the other person to go, oh, right, they just in response to a lot of the healing, or that inspires the other to go and do their own path of healing, or if it eventually breaks the relationship because one person's grown so much and the other person stays stagnant. So there's all these choices, and none of them are wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot of choices to be made. But sometimes, we recognize that we want to heal, and we want to do some inner work. And maybe we go, yeah, these patterns began in our childhood, or they've been inside me a long, long time. And then we want to start healing. but I think sometimes we want it right away. You've used that reference a couple of times, like standing in front of the mirror. Maybe you don't have clothes on. I love myself. And you're doing those affirmations, but I've heard you say a couple of times that, it doesn't really work. There's more to it. And maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, there's skimming the surface, right? There's things that make us feel momentarily good. And then doing the work means going in deeper to find out where the sources of patterns happen. And not just intellectually, but then to start to feel them in your body somatically. And to be able to release them, to be able to witness and see the patterns so that eventually you can change. So how quickly someone changes is really dependent on how aware they are about themselves. It can be a willingness, but it is a journey. I mean, we're on this planet for however long to keep learning. Like there's no end to the journey. So there's also, I think it's really important to say this isn't about fixing anything. It's not about fixing yourself. It's not about fixing the other. It's that place of something isn't feeling good or right. And so how do you want to alter and change your life path? And instead of thinking like, oh my God, I needed it to be done yesterday, take it as the gift of just being able to see it. I mean, there's people that never go there, right? So being able to recognize that you want something for yourself means that you're already on the path.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that, to recognize that you want something for yourself. You're already on the path. So part of this has to be about self-permission.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yes, it's absolutely about self-permission and allowances. It's how much do we allow ourselves? We're so conditioned, all of us, we're so conditioned that, this is right, this is wrong, this is what you're allowed to like, this is what you're not allowed to like. And then when we get into relationships, that gets even more defined, right? How we show up for a person, then, we keep showing up that way. And so to allow yourself to be seen, which is the other part of why successful women have it so difficult, because that being successful can also be a barrier to being exposed and allowing yourself to I love Brene Brown, right? She's just talking about vulnerability and showing up in the moment of when you don't want to be seen, and being able to show up in that way tenderly and let someone see you and allow yourself to see yourself as well. So permission is huge. Yeah. And I'm just going to speak personally for a second, because I had been married for I was in a partnership that was really a long time, and I was quite young. And so again, I came in with this a much younger perspective and wanting to fit the mold of the perfect partner or the perfect wife. And as time went on, I found myself struggling to be more like I was searching for my authenticity. I was searching for why my life wasn't feeling good. And so there was a lot of shame there. And it's important to recognize that, one, we all have it. We're all human. And two, that there's this, again, there's this opportunity for depth of intimacy. And if you feel like you can't talk to your partner about things, that at least you get honest with yourself first. I think that's the worst thing you can do to yourself, is to lie here first.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we can only go as deep with another as we've gone with ourselves, or love another as much as we love ourselves.
Yeah.
And, how intimate can we be with ourselves would then mean how intimate you can be with another.
Yes.
See, I've taken a break from all this, but it's coming back to me. Because I do feel that sometimes women are frustrated when they're in emotionally dead spaces,
Mm-hmm.
or emotionally distant people, or what might you say to a woman who finds herself in there, in a place like that?
Where she's emotionally dead, I would have her, wow, to start with, I would say go work with someone, go and explore yourself. A great place to start is to sit and be with the numbness. So again, moving through COVID, and I think so many people were all of a sudden caught in the space of not being able to move, in the silence, having to be with themselves, being in the discomfort of it. Numbness and disconnection are huge flags and huge signs. So it's coming back and asking the tougher questions. It's not beating yourself up for what hasn't been done or what you should be doing or should be feeling. I think that's the other chronic thing that women deal with is the shoulds. So the invitation is to start exploring what lights you up. What is being said in the numbness? What is being said in the discomfort, in the disconnection? What is not being attended to? And again, it's so easy to other it, right? To put it on the other person. But usually it's the self-neglect first. It's the self-abandonment. And I would say go and examine where you are abandoning yourself.
Oh, that's very powerful. I mean, that's a very deep inquiry that you just put out there for women. And that's some good work. This is some of the work you do with your clients in your practice, obviously. And what kind of transformations stand out for you or might become possible when you agree to explore and play and do some of this therapeutic work?
For me, it comes down to, I call it the feeling capacity or pleasure capacity. And my experience is that almost uniformly, it comes down to how much will you allow yourself, give yourself permission to feel. And that's really what it's about. So the transformation that I've seen usually goes from that numb place or that disconnection place to increasing and the permission to feel, which comes through whether it's dealing with shame, coming up with the listening to the voices that are shaming, that are judging you, which is usually our own internal banter. And so the transformation that I see is just the ahas of like, oh, this is what this numbness is, or this is what this anger is. Oh, and then the body starts to open up. Our bodies are incredible instruments. So, when a body is shut down, when she's no longer feeling, and I'm saying she, but it's really in the human experience. Our bodies they protect us. There are cages. So
Yes.
but in that we have so much room for self-expression. But if we have so much judgment or we're limiting our own, or limiting our freedom, suppressing our emotions, suppressed trauma experiences, then that gets trapped in the body. And so things show up very clearly, like not being able to orgasm or orgasm as fully, or not really feeling into the body, not experiencing as much, not feeling as much. Again, I think a lot of depression that we like to medicate nowadays. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who need a medication, so please don't, come at me. But I'm saying that we've over medicated Western society. Everything has a pill, as opposed to coming back into self-inquiry, sitting with the self, feeling into what is going on. And usually that space of, well, I should be feeling this, is the place to start. It's in our shoulds, it's in our disconnection.
Oh, that's really interesting, because I actually don't mind being vulnerable and sharing with you that I notice that shows up for me. Like, I should be grateful. I should be happy in this moment. And that's, a shaming at the shoulds and the, shoulding all over ourselves. But I think, it does take a lot of courage. You mentioned Brene Brown and the vulnerability, and is also courage to go to do the work, right?
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
it's the courage to do the work and the shoulding. It's so interesting that you said, I should be grateful. Right? I should be happy. But I mean, all of these, as women, we also have these, our emotions move, they flow. You can have gratitude and be pissed off. And I think that's part of the stretching of capacity is you can be in deep, deep grief and still feel joy. But you can't feel your joy if you haven't or don't allow yourself to feel grief. Or anger, if it's like, I'm not allowed to be angry. You can be angry and grateful. You can also have a moment of just being, just thinking, I'm not grateful in this moment, even if you have a deep center that is. And so we are very complex human, as creatures, as beings. We can hold so much more, but we tend to like very neat boxes. And the thing is we're not neat beings. We have so much going on all the time. And yet we're told, if you feel this, that's wrong. And all of it is good. It's necessary. Otherwise we'd just be two-dimensional beings.
Yes, we're very multidimensional and a dynamical and a paradox that we can do two things, hold. It's paradoxical, right? But that was so amazing what you said. I had to do a little podcast preparation today, and I put these containers here, but they're generally not here. And we are like containers, how would a goddess feel walking through this world? A goddess vessel.
How does a goddess vessel feel? I think
Yeah.
every goddess has her own unique formula, but the goddess vessel moves with flow, moves in her body. She moves with heart and her center. And I think the expression of the goddess comes out in so many delicious flavors. I'm not going to corner any goddess. But she moves in her sensuality. She is the flow, and the goddess does need a container. This is where we talk about the feminine and the masculine essence, and within the goddess is also a good solid masculine energy, even within herself, to be able to hold that. So she's not just like leaking all over the place. So, but the goddess moves. She's the creator of life. She's the birthing, it's the creativity.
Yes. I think when we're really creative, we're in our power.
We're in our power. And I don't want to say creativity like all of those women that are like, I'm super smart and I'm, my mind works like this. I'm talking about this capacity of birthing into life. It's our aliveness, how we express ourselves, and allowing that instead of squashing that. And also the goddess, I want to add to that and just say there's a depth of real authenticity. It's not a performance.
Okay. That's something we hear quite a lot about in today's world, that the word authenticity, and it's something I think we're lacking uh, in the world too, is as well. Connectedness, authenticity. Who are we being when we're stepping into the flow of authenticity?
We're being our best selves. Again, we should all over ourselves, and we build masks along the way. Most of us don't know that the masks are even there. And so when you start to remove them, it's something that I've realized, you talk about perimenopause. I'm like right in there in that menopausal place. And there is something about not really caring anymore about what other people think, that you need to show up in this way. If you've done the work, for sure. But I think there's something that happens naturally. If you're holding on to masks, I think there's such a great cost. because at the end of the day, we're all moving towards the same ending, whether we like it or not, whether it comes sooner or later. And the performances are really taking away from a deeper, richer life, a deeper existence. So authenticity for me shows up very much in my gut. It shows up. I can feel it grounded in my body. But again, anyone else could feel it differently. Somebody might feel it more in their head or in their hands or in their feet. And so,
My goodness. It's really fascinating to look at through the lens of the different ways we can expand and express ourselves and experience, a goddess state or authenticity, to be empowered. I mean, we could keep going and going, but our time on radio and podcast goes super fast.
Mhm.
Out of all of the things we've touched on today in this rich plethora, what would you like women to walk away feeling like, or knowing, or something they can hold on to, or an invitation? I'm going to just open it up to Gwenm.
The invitation for me is, or that I'd like to extend out, is to invite women back into their bodies, however it is that they want to go there, whether that's taking that dance class, whether that's going out into nature, or putting on some clothes that make them feel delicious, setting aside a time of pleasure. I would say definitely carving out time to come home is probably one of the most golden nuggets, because if you're just out in the world doing without being in your body, your life goes quickly, and all of those accomplishments don't mean anything if you weren't present for it.
Yes, just coming home to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And home is in here. Yeah, we don't want to miss those
Always
moments.
in here. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
We went to such a sensational place and a kind of an intimate ending, but the journalist in me wants to ask, on a more practical note, do you believe that women can be, do, and have everything that they want?
I think that women or anyone can have everything that they truly need and desire. So, and I don't want to say just everything we want, because that's a very casual way of saying, like, oh, I want a car, I want a house, or I want this, or I want that. You may or may not get the exact thing, but if you're striving to find depth and fulfillment, absolutely. And that will be your unique journey, but it's not about getting everything you want. It's about getting those nuggets that really make your life worth every morsel.
Oh, yes, that's true. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, we remember the real moments with someone, and real moments with ourselves, and we don't remember the things we had or owned or gave away, or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have such a lovely presence and a beautiful practice. How can folks out there listening connect with you and perhaps engage? And I encourage everyone to, have a complimentary discovery call with Gwenm. Invest in yourself and buy one of her coaching packages. Reach out to her and say hi. I'm sure she would love to hear from you. How can women or humans connect with you?
Thank you, Barbara. Well, you can check out my website at gwenmcarsley.com. I'm also reachable at info@luvology.com. Is probably the best way. I take, direct emails. And yeah, it's probably the best way. I'm also on Instagram, social media. Yeah. But yeah, I'm there too, at Luvology.
Excellent. I thank everyone for being here. Another episode of Healing Forward. And if this episode resonated with you, if you felt it in your senses, in your body, if you have a question, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Barbara La Pointe.
Healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments like these. Wherever you are in your personal journey, honor it. If this episode meant something to you, share it, leave us a review, and stay connected for more conversations that move us forward. Until next time, I'm Barbara La Pointe, and remember, keep healing forward.